Hi friends, I'm Brea and welcome to my channel Tales of Tales. So I'm going to try to keep today's intro as brief as possible because all we're doing in today's vlog is determining if some of my 5-star predictions are actually 5 stars. So a couple months ago I made this video just picking 10 books that were on my shelf, whether they were new releases or backlist, that I felt based on my reading taste I would be giving 5 stars. So some of those books already have proven themselves to not be 5 stars, but I'm still hoping for the best. So I picked 3 books that I was really excited to get into from that list, and those books are All of Us Villains by Amanda Foody and Christine Lynn Herman, We Ride Upon Sticks by Quan Berry, and The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. So without further ado, let's just get into the reading, and we are starting this vlog off with All of Us Villains. So I'm about 2/3 of the way done with All of Us Villains, and this book is essentially the Hunger Games but with magic. So in the setting of this story, there is common magic, which is just like everyday small spells and things like that, but then there's also high magic, which is more powerful, more deadly, and all around just like more rare. And the thing about that high magic is that it can only be controlled by one family at a time. So every 20 years or so, these 7 really like prestigious families have to name a champion, and that champion is always a child, similar to the Hunger Games, but that champion then has to compete to the death in this tournament, and the winner, or the last person standing, ends up winning control of this high magic for their family until the next tournament. So these families really just throw these kids in there pretty ruthlessly. They're like, you're probably gonna die, or you better not die because our family needs this high magic. Honestly, the story is actually really gripping me. It's multi-POV, which I wasn't expecting, and we are following the points of view of 4 of the 7 champions that are in this tournament. So we actually get their point of view before the tournament, and so we get insight into like their family dynamics, what their family is saying to them, and what their expectations are. And we also are starting to get their POV as they are inside the tournament as well. And so like I said, I'm enjoying it, and it's fast-paced enough where I will probably get through it either like tonight or sometime tomorrow. However, I will say that it's shaping up to be more of a 4-star rather than a 5-star for me, but there's still enough book left for that rating to change either way. I'm hoping for the best, and I hope it ends up being 5-star because I am enjoying it, but there isn't just that like wow factor that's happening right now. It just seems like a well done YA dystopian-ish magic book. All right, but with that, I think I'm gonna go edit for a little while. Then I'll probably read some of that, and then I need to figure out what my reading plans are for the balance of the year and the beginning of next year. I ended up joining Books and Lala's live stream yesterday that she did with her channel members to talk about all of the Goodreads nominations. Like, we went through every single category and we got to see Kayla's reactions, and then everybody in the chat had their own reactions to things. And so between Kayla's reactions and things she's read, and between things that people in the chat were recommending or telling people to steer away from, I actually have a bunch of books that I want to add to my TBR and that I have added to my Goodreads list, but there's just like so much to get to, and you know, so many books, not enough reading capacity in this brain to get through them quickly. So we're in a bit of a dilemma there, but I'll provide you guys an update on All of Us Are Villains momentarily. Ooh, someone's parking next to me. Yikes. That's awkward. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the things that I didn't like in this book first. So a lot of the characters ended up being pretty annoying to me by the end, and I don't know if that was intentional or if it's just because the characters in this book are teenagers and they are fighting for their lives. I think if you've ever been a teenager, then you know that their logic and rationale behind a lot of things are very flawed. But you know, I kind of put that on myself because this book is YA and I knew that going into it. So I think sometimes I have difficulty reconciling when, you know, it's a teenager doing things and what I would do as an adult. So I just have to keep that in mind when I'm reading YA. But I will say that I wish that someone would come up with like a similar premise to this where people are fighting to the death and it's kind of, you know, a Hunger Games situation, but with adults. Just because I'm starting to feel bad having to read these kids fight to the death, you know, and have to make these very adult decisions at a very young age. So if anybody knows of any books like that out there, please let me know. And then the ending of this book I struggled with, because while I understand that this book is like the first in a series, and I understand that a lot of times with books like this, you have to leave a bit of a cliffhanger at the end to make people want to pick up the rest of the series, I still think that the reader should feel a little satisfied at the end. And I personally just felt like I had more questions at the end than I did at the beginning. And it kind of felt like the authors, you know, were just writing, and then just put their pen down. Like, they were just like, okay, we'll see you in the next book. And there was just like no real type of resolution to the end. Okay, so now I did enjoy the book, so I'll talk about some of the good things about it. So I understand that this book gets a lot of Hunger Games comparisons, but I will say that this book did feel completely different, and it felt like it definitely can stand on its own without those comparisons. And I didn't feel like I was reading the Hunger Games just in a different font, if that makes any sense. And while I just said that, you know, I was kind of upset with the ending because I know that this is going to be a series, I can see this being a really engaging and popular and interesting series, especially because towards the end, it did start to get a little dark. The imagery was very vivid and it was a little gory. And I'm one of those people, like, if you're going to go dark, like go to the pits, you know, if you're gonna go dark. And I have a feeling that this has the potential, at least, to lean that way. So overall, I'm giving this a 3.75 out of 5 stars, and I'll round up to 4 on Goodreads. And I'm undecided if I'm gonna continue on in the series or not. So when I first opened this audiobook in the car, I was very confused because I was like, why in the world is this book 13 hours on audio when it's only 360 pages? But then I finally started to read it physically and I understood why it's such a long audiobook, just because of the way that it's printed. Like, the text is kind of small. Anywho, how to describe this book. So We Ride Upon Sticks follows this high school field hockey team, and we open up with these girls at a camp, and at this camp they call on this like mysterious slash like witchy power to make them better at field hockey and just to make them better in general with like small things that are going on in their lives. And these powers also seem to keep all of the girls in sync as far as when it comes to like their actions and thoughts. They're all kind of just kept in rhythm. So they are connected by these powers, as well as like a piece of sock that's tied around their arms. And if they take the sock off, they end up becoming worse at field hockey than they were before they even put the sock on. So all the girls are enticed to not take the sock off ever. So I'm almost 80 pages into this book, and right now we're just getting to know more about each of the individual characters, as well as we're starting to explore maybe the source of these like mysterious witchy powers that they have. And we are actually starting to get some foreshadowing into maybe some of the negative impacts that this power has for the girls, which I think is really interesting. And I don't even know if foreshadowing is the right word, because it's like pretty blatant that it's like something bad or something negative is going to come out of them being connected like this. And to top it all off, this book is set in the 80s, and it gives very strong 80s vibes, like quintessential 80s vibes, just with the descriptions and some of like the pop culture references that are made, which I'm really enjoying. I say that I'm enjoying it, but I'm gonna be honest. You know, I feel like I gave a coherent-ish recap of where I'm at in the book so far, but I don't really know what I'm reading right now. The writing style is a little chaotic, a little eccentric maybe is a better word, but I'm not gonna lie, I was a little confused at first, and I had to reread certain paragraphs over again to make sure that I was understanding it. However, the more that I'm reading it, the more I'm starting to like understand it, or that I'm just starting to enjoy it, I guess. And it kind of reminds me of like a quirky 80s movie where there is like a narrator in the back with like a very humorous personality that's kind of just commenting on things that are happening within the story. And if I think about it like that, then it's a little easier for me to digest. But I am enjoying it. It's just moving a little slower than I had imagined. I'm also realizing that I'm gonna have to set aside a couple hours each night to actually get through this, because if not, it's gonna take me like 2 weeks to read this book, and I definitely want to read it before I leave to go back to Dallas. And if I'm like whispering a little bit, or you know, my voice is a little softer, I always just feel weird filming at my parents' house, because like I have the door closed, but my family be nosy, and I just don't like it. I don't like it. Okay, so I'm back home now, and I was able to enjoy some time with my family, eat a lot, rest. But I hope all of you guys were also able to find some comfort and joy during the holiday. But I was also able to get some reading done while I was doing all that resting and eating. So I ended up finishing We Ride Upon Sticks by Brea. So when I last talked to you guys, I was only like 80 pages into this book, and the reason I didn't update you guys in between 80 pages and me finishing it was because I wasn't really sure what to exactly update you on. And I'm probably still gonna struggle a little bit just talking about my thoughts on the book in general, but I'm gonna give it my best shot, and let's talk about the positives first. So this book was comical in a really unexpected way to me. I think between like the commentary and just the way that some things were like described, it was just really quirky, and it gave me a few like chuckles. And it wasn't like a gut laugh chuckle, it was more like that was kind of weird, but I enjoyed it type of chuckle. I also really enjoyed the ending. Any questions that I might have had like during the meat of the book were answered for me by the end of the book, which I really enjoyed. And I think the ending just kind of made me feel all the warm and fuzzies. I was just really satisfied with the way that this ended. And so this book is truly like nothing I've ever read before. And I think that's why I was like kind of struggling with it most of the way, just because the writing style isn't something that I'm used to. Because technically there is a plot to this book, right? We're following this field hockey team and how they're kind of connected through these like mysterious powers, and we follow them along as they're navigating these powers and how it impacts them day to day. But ultimately this kind of just felt like a coming of age story that just had a potential magical twist added onto it. So, you know, we get to follow each of the characters, which I did really enjoy. And, you know, they're really just navigating familial issues, their sexuality, friendship, just everything that you go through. I think as like a regular teenager, we follow them. And with getting to know each individual character, you know, I mentioned before that they kind of have like this group think going on, and they're all kind of like connected internally. So when some of those like group internal monologues were going on, what each character was saying just added another level of comedy, or it just added like another level of understanding, I guess, because we all knew what was going, and I say all, like the reader knows what's going on with the character. So I did really enjoy that. And overall, I did enjoy this book. It's just not what I was expecting per se. However, I think this would be a fantastic movie if whoever created it could figure out how to do like the internal monologue, because I think that's like an important part of the book. But yeah, like I said, I enjoyed it. Just wasn't what I was thinking it would be. So I'm gonna give it a 3.5 stars. Nothing inherently wrong, just I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about it and trying to figure out like what I actually just read, but you know, you live and you learn. But we still don't have a 5-star yet, and I still have to read The Only Good Indian. So I'm hoping that I can finish this within the next like day or two, so that I can end November off and end this vlog off with a 5-star read. So I will, ooh, you guys can see all that from my travels. Let's turn that way. Yeah, so hopefully we're gonna keep spinning. We're just gonna spin back here. As you guys saw, unfortunately, I'm not going to show you again. I still have a lot of like unpacking and stuff to do, and I want to decorate for Christmas since it is the end of November right now. But hopefully I will see you guys very soon, and hopefully it's with good news. Doesn't matter if the snow is falling or the wind blows and the rain is pouring, it will always be Christmas in my heart. But this year I wanna hang out with my friends and family, making angels in the sand, you and me. Doesn't matter, it's Christmas in my heart. And I can promise Santa's coming to visit. No, he wouldn't miss this in Christmas times. Oh, and the sunset is just getting better on a blanket with the skyline painted in blue. Ooh, yeah, that's what we do. Doesn't matter if the snow is falling or the wind blows and the rain is pouring, it will always be Christmas in my heart. But this year I wanna hang out with my friends and family, making angels in the sand, you and me. Doesn't matter, it's Christmas in my heart. So I'm a little over 200 pages in The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. So this book follows these men who 10 years ago, they go on this elk hunting trip, and things don't necessarily go as planned, or they don't go as tradition would like them to go. 10 years later, they are being hunted and stalked themselves, seemingly by the elk that they hunt and killed in that hunting trip 10 years ago. And so going into this book, I wasn't sure what to expect, and I also didn't really know what the horror element was gonna be, but I'm learning with Stephen Graham Jones writing that he has this way of making people's like inner thoughts and their monologue and like the reasoning and rationale behind some of their actions just very eerie very terrifying. And so he's definitely doing that in this book. And I say that because I'm not sure where it is, but The Night of the Mannequins, which is like a short novella by Stephen Graham Jones, was also the same way, where just like the inner workings of the main character's brain was just a little off. Let's just say that. In the first half of this book, we're really just following like one main character named Lewis, and we are kind of getting the backstory and his perspective of that hunting trip, and like the role that he played in it. And then we kind of get why he feels like he's being stalked by the elk. And I'll just say that things take a turn from there. Things get pretty dark, pretty eerie in that perspective. And then from there, we kind of go into a few different perspectives. And I'll say one of those perspectives is probably one that you wouldn't suspect. And it was a little surprising to me, but definitely enjoyable. I really have no idea where this book is gonna end up. I really have no prediction, no guess. All I really know is that it's probably gonna end up leaving me a bit freaked out, but that's like the whole point of a horror novel, right? So I'm excited to finish this one up. For the most part, I've been reading this via audio, but I feel like even though I'm still getting like the eerie and like kind of scary parts of it via audio, I feel like I'm not going to get the full weight of the novel unless I finish it physically. You know, so it's a nice cloudy, calm, relaxing Sunday. So it's the perfect time to finish this one up. Okay, so I come bearing good news. I'm all smiles because The Only Good Indians ended up being 5 stars for me. So the story got darker, and the imagery and like the last fourth of the book just really did it for me, because it was really vivid, yet it still made you use your imagination, which I just like really loved. You know, you had to use your brain to kind of conjure up some of the things that are being described, because they aren't necessarily things that you would see day to day. The pacing of the ending was really great as well. A certain scene or like atmosphere starts and things just pop off. Like it is back to back to back and you don't know what to think. Personally, my emotions were all over the place. I felt a little shocked. I felt a little scared. I felt a little disturbed. But all of those things are things that you want or you would expect out of like a horror book like this. So no complaints here. And the conclusion of this book was really satisfying to me, because this book told a story while also giving you some like education on indigenous and native cultures, as well as just like really just scaring the hell out of you. So I just think this was just like a really well done book. And if you're looking for a good horror, if you're looking to read from an indigenous author, this did it for me. 5 stars. All around. And I'm just really glad that I got to finish off this vlog with a 5-star and on a high note. Okay, but in conclusion, I gave all of Us Villains 3.5 stars. And I know in a previous clip, I gave it a 3.75. And I also stated that there wasn't that many Hunger Games comparisons. However, I recently rewatched the movies and I have to retract that statement. They're a little closer than I thought. So giving this a 3.5 stars. I think I've made the decision that I'm not going to continue on in the series. However, I did enjoy my time, and if you're in the market for like a YA dystopian book, I would recommend this one. Just kind of depending on what you're looking for. And then we have We Ride Upon Sticks by Brea, which I'm also giving 3.5 stars. I think mostly because I didn't really know what to expect when I was going into it. But I definitely recommend this if you're looking for something that's like has a little bit of magic in it, you know, a little bit of witchiness in it, and you like the 80s vibes and you're looking for a book that's about friendship, navigating being a teenager, as well as just how to navigate some familial issues, then I would definitely recommend this. And then, you know, the star of the show, The Only Good Indians. Recommend this to just about anybody who is looking for a good horror book. Vroom, vroom. Well, I'm glad that I at least got one 5-star book out of this vlog, and that my 5-star prediction list isn't a complete flop. But let me know down below in the comments what's the last 5-star book you read, and if you've read any of the books in this vlog, what you rated them. And if you made it to the end of this video, you are my absolute favorite, my little tater tot, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.